Hi guys, welcome back. Hope you're having a good day. If you haven't already subscribed, I'd appreciate it if you do. And if you can leave us a like, I'd appreciate that as well. So, what we're going to talk about today is this printer, this ANET A8. Now, I'm holding the camera, so you have to excuse me wobbling a little bit, but I'll try my best to keep it all in frame. I've had this printer for 2 years, and I thought, I've been asked a few times whether I think it's good and would I buy it and should I buy it, and that's some of the questions I want to ask, and I'm gonna explain that at the end. So I'm going to go through all the things I've done on this printer since I bought it to make it a better printer, and at the end of it I'll explain, was it worth it, would I do it again, that type of thing. So I've had this for 2 years. I bought it from Banggood. There's a video on me putting it together 2 years ago, and I think it's fair to say this is my only printer. I haven't got anything else to judge it by, so I can't say this is better than X printer or that type of thing. This is the only one I've got to judge by. What I can judge it by is when I print something out and I look at the quality of it, and then I'll look at some YouTube videos of other people printing items out, and they'll zoom in and look at like the surface of a print and see whether it's there's any artifacts like that. So I can judge it that way, yeah, and that's what I'll probably do. So I'm going to go over what I've done, what I've upgraded, and what's the best upgrades as well, yeah. So to cut a long story short, I'll zoom out a little bit. If you look at all the orange parts and all the white parts on this printer, that's what's being printed out by this printer. So we're basically everything pretty much. So the white parts are going to be, obviously you see a few white parts here, white parts in there, some white parts there, the sides and at the back, looking down there, some white parts. So we flash over it quick because I don't want to spend like forever talking about it, but what I'm going to talk about basically is what's the most important things. Yeah, if you bought this printer now, what would you want to be upgrading straight away? This is my opinion. So guys, so we'll start off with the bed. The bed itself has a fault with the power, the socket here. So I've done a video, which I'll leave a link, saying I've soldered this on, so it's hardwired on, so when it flexes there's less possibilities of any catching fire or melting or anything like that. Now I did have a thermal runaway and this caused it. That's why I had it for about a year and nearly 2 years. It was only last month, so just 2 years this worked okay, and then the other week I had a thermal runaway, and literally I had a print running, and I watched the first layer, second layer maybe, yeah, that's good, and I went to make a cuppa, and literally I was way about a minute and a half away, 2 minutes away, came back, and Marlon had saved the day. Marlon I detected the thermal runaway, and it shut the printer down, came up and it was shut down. It was all running, but it turned the heaters off, the bed heater, and it turned the hot end was turned off, which basically saved the printer from, but what would have happened is the bed would have got hotter and hotter and hotter until something burnt out, probably melted and set fire. If it was the hot end, it probably set fire to other things and melt all the plastics and that type of thing, yeah. So I don't know, but Marlon is a great upgrade, and that would be my number one thing. Get the software upgraded to Marlon as quick as you can and get the latest version, and I'll show you on one. I've got a spare board and I'll show you that in a moment, because I've got some parts which I'm going to go over. I've got my parts box. In that parts box I'm going to show you quickly what I keep for emergencies, so if the printer fails I can get it up and running again. So I would say get that done, number one priority, and then after that it's quite safe once you got Marlon. I'm not promoting leaving it, never leave it. I also have a smoke alarm. I have a smoke alarm up there, yeah, a smoke alarm up there, which is literally 3 feet away. I've also got a webcam, you can see There's a webcam there, which is actually looking at it, so I never really leave the printer. I've always got some form of safety, and there's a fire extinguisher there and so on. So yeah, quite safe, but don't leave please don't leave these printers. Go out and leave your house, it'll burn your house down, or it could do. So get that done. Secondly, I would say this thing here, this thing's fantastic. This one's a 3D Touch. I haven't done a video installing it, but there's plenty of other videos. But this thing has actually changed the life of this printer. It's turned from like a good printer to a great printer in my opinion. I would get that done, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. Obviously you've got to do some programming and such, and run the cables in. But once you get it in, it's fantastic, guys. Then I would say the bed, the actual plate of the bed. I've put a steel plate on the bed, and this works in conjunction with that. It means that I don't really need to spray any glues or any hairspray. I used to use this on glass. I've stopped using glass altogether. This is the only surface I use, which is well, actually there's two. I turn it over, so there's this surface, which is like a porous plastic built-up type of surface, and then I can turn it over, and I'll show you that shortly. That's my main everyday surface I use. I use this for best type of thing. If I've got a tricky print, I might go to this one. Okay, so that's the BL Touch, in this case the 3D Touch. I would say definitely get that put in. And then I have to upgrade the screen. It's just gone from this screen, which is 20 before, to 120 be something, I can't remember, but yeah, this is far better because you've got an easier screen to look at, easy to navigate. You've also got your reset button, and on in the light there. You've also got a reset button here, so if I touch that button, that'll reset. Before, you'd have to come round to the side and get your fingers through the little holes to push a button for the reset, because it's on the board. So that's another good upgrade just by getting this done. And also you've got you have a speaker, guys. So there's a tiny little speaker on there, and a lot of people say, well, yeah, you don't need it. You don't. But when you go into the EEPROM and you want to save some settings, you get a confirmation when you click it. You get a confirmation, obviously, when you go down to save something. So if I go into prepare and then go to no, not prepare. If I can find control, if I go into control and then go down to store settings, then when I click the button it'll beep. I'm not going to do that, but if I did alter something, then it would save it in the memory. So that I would say that as a fantastic upgrade. Yeah. Second, after that, so they're the main things I would say get upgraded. After that, I'll be looking for things like bracings to make the frame. It's the weak part of this printer, or the weakest part of it, is going to be the stability. And that's why a lot of new printers come with the steel press tubes, steel frames and such. But it's not too bad if you can do the upgrades. So as you can see, I've got frame brace for the Y axis, frame braces for the X axis. Yeah. And one thing before that, so number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4 would be, I've changed it to a boarding system, or whatever you want to call it. So this motor, this extruder motor, used to be down here on there, and you can see the setup I've got. So it's made the X gantry a lot lighter. It's hard to see there. So it's made that X gantry really light compared to, so I've took all the weight of all this from here up to the top of that, and I've got some tube in there. So yeah, I would say that's a good upgrade. Definite upgrade. So while we're looking at the end of this end, the hot end, I've also put a silicone sock over the hot end. That's definitely tidies it up and also keeps the heat in, and also keeps the the temperature more stable. So without that you could use some blanket and some tape, but that's far nicer way to go on. If anybody's wondering what this is, this plug, there's a jack plug there, that's for me laser. So if I was going to do some laser printing and I wanted to cut something out, I'd pop this in the top. I'm not going to do it, but I'll just pop it in there. It slides all the way down, and then you've just got this plug, plug it in, and that's all you've got to do. And the cool thing about it is when I do an auto home and the BL Touch comes in, or 3D Touch, and it does a check, does it twice, then stops. When it stops, that's the right height for the laser. So I've focused it at the right height for that. So I don't need to do anything apart from put the laser on, auto home it, and then run the G-code. I don't have to mess about with any heights, which is just easier. And that cable's already wired in. So this cable here is actually wired all the way to the main board, and it goes to the fan. So it's wired in to the same connectors as this. I can't show you it because it's buried all the way in there, but trust me, it's wired up all the time and it works. So yeah, that's a good upgrade. I've got some clamps which hold it to the bed. Bearing in mind it's not screwed down, it's not pulled down. You can actually move it a little bit. It's about 0.1 millimeter gap, so it's not pulling it down, it's just holding it. Yeah. And then we've got the X and Y adjustment for the belt tensioners. As you can see here, you've got the Y, and then you've got the X adjustment there to keep your belt tension just right. Yeah. And whether you want to add these cable trays, that's just cosmetic. Don't need to use that, but I think that looks pretty cool. Sounds silly, but this little handle I would say is a high priority, because when that bed gets hot, obviously you can bend yourself, that's one reason, but even more so when you pull on the bed, i.e. hold this and pull, you're actually bending. If you don't have a lot of tension, on the springs, which I don't, then you're going to actually make the bed move. You could make it move up, down, left, right. So if you pull it from this handle, you pull it from the base, so you're never touching that bed. So I think that is a good upgrade. And there's the clamp there for that, and there's a clamp on that side as well. So yeah, I would say that's a really good feature. What else then? So we've got a fan cover, a must, definitely get that on. That's the original power supply I've used for 2 years. I've never had any problems with it. Once you've got the fan on, it keeps it nice and cool and regulated. And I've just done a video recently putting this screen on. This is a fantastic upgrade. It's not you don't need it. It's just nice to be able to look down and see what power you're using, especially if you're using the original power supply. You can keep a check on your 12 volts. And there's a video, and I'll leave a link somewhere up there or at the end. But just straight away you can see how much power I've used. So I've used 3,304 watts since I put this monitor on. There's my 240, and then I'm using 0.41 amps, nothing, just for the light, 13 watts, which is a great feature. Yeah, so okay, so that leads me on to another thing which I've just done recently. Just move that camera stand. I've just done this recently. I'll just kneel down a bit. Is these things here, the orange parts there. So it's a little marker. And what that does is, I've never used that before. I put it on about 2 weeks ago, and it is fantastic. I would say it's a priority for me, because it allows me to monitor the two Z motors. Now them Z motors, I don't know, it might be a bit tight on one side and skip. So what I like to do is, when I zero it, I'm not going to do it, but when I zero it, them two markers there, as you can see, they look out because the last print I've done, it's up. But if I zeroed it, when it does its checks and it checks the height and gets its 0 mark, there should be on 0. So I can check that side and I can check that side. And if I see it out, I ain't going to run a print. I'll just find out why, and then I have to measure the gantry. And what I do for that, if it was out, what I normally do is I measure from the bottom of that pole to the base of the table. So I'm measuring from the table, because that's constant, to this top of there, and I'll do the same for the other side. And that gets me like within 0 point something of the bed, and it makes the bed a lot more accurate. So when you do your 9-point mesh bed, your mesh is a lot more flat. You're getting less warpage. Yeah. So I would say that's a good upgrade. I've still got the Z switch left on it. I haven't bothered to take it off. And as you can see, let me just move this camera a little bit, just like that. If you look into there, you can actually see there's a little two orange wires. Now that's for the BL Touch. That's for the control wire. Now it's got A6. I don't think you can see that, but it says pin 29 A6. There's another one, I can't remember the pins, a pin 28 or something. I'll have a look and I'll show you that later on. But there's another cable down there which is redundant. That's for this screen. So if I wanted to switch back over to this screen, I'd have to just change the wires. So I'm actually connected to this wire now, pin 29, but I would actually have to connect to the other wire if I wanted to use the other screen, just so that this screen recognises the BL Touch. Okay, so looking at the top, don't need, just for sure. This thing's fantastic. I've actually got a spare one just in case that breaks. I have my filament at the top. It works for me. That's just personal choice. And the little wheel on there, which is a must, because you can turn it to force your filament through when you're doing tests. You can also watch it as well. I normally have this temperature sensor thermometer in there. It still allows me to see. I can watch it and see how fast it's going, which is nice. Around this side, I've got the MOSFETs attached. These are 2-year-old. I've put them on pretty much when I've done the printer, so they're working okay, no problem. I've got a spare one. I always have a spare of something, because if one fails, you've got to just make sure these are really tight. This cable is in case I want to plug it into my PC, which is just there. I've got a long USB cable if I want to do any flashing of the Marlin or something like that. And then I can't really get into there, but you can see it's full of wires. This is quite nice to keep everything tucked in. I'm not going to go into detail in there, but I've got a spare board I can show you, and I've got this fan which blows across and keeps the board cool. That's basically it, really. Right guys, so what we're going to do, I'm going to go through all the list of the spare parts which I carry, just to keep the printer going, keep it all going. So we have one of these Arduino. This one's an Arduino FR Arduino in circuit programmer. So I've got the adapter. This one's for the ATmega 8. Just one of those. So they're quite handy. They're only cheap. Pick yourself one of those if they're worth keeping. There's the main one I use, the main one of choice for programming and main boards. Yeah, so that's what I use to program the main board. There's plenty of videos on these type of things. And there's actually a board I use. So this is a spare board. So if my printer, if that board fails for any reason, I can take this out, plug this in, and we're away. I've wrote on here, Innit A6 LCD, so it's got the A6 liquid crystal display attached, the buzzer, 3D touch, auto bed, and it's actually it's using 99%. That's as much as I could get on. I'm lucky to get 99% on there. And I've changed the bootloader to Opti bootloader, and it's running Marlin 1.9. Yeah. So if I wanted to flash this, I'd use this plugged into there. Obviously that way. So I plug that in. After I've got this flashed, I'd flash this with this, and then I'd have to boot from a USB afterwards. I don't know. So one thing I don't think I mentioned, there's two cables running out the back of this. One of them is pin 27 and one is pin 29. The yellow one is pin 29. Is that pin 29? Yeah, pin 29. The yellow one is for the ANET A6 display, the one I'm using, the big screen. And then if I want to go back to the ANET A8 small screen, I'd use that for the so it'd recognise it in the software. Yeah, that's already ready to go, and that's it really. So that's for that. We're doing pack of spare fans. These ones are just your normal fans, 12 volts, so you want them. Don't need them. We've got a spare sensor in case the BL Touch failed. I can pop that on. I could use that. I much prefer to buy another BL Touch and have that as spare. Packet of thermistors. There's 10 there with a lead. It's just as cheap to buy 10 as buy 2. Sorry about them. Pack of heaters. Covering them, things like that. So there's one. Looks a lot, but it's just the 2 cables. Got your thermistor already in. All you got to do is just wire that in. There's about 10 there. These are from Banggood. You pick them up all over eBay. I think if you bought them separately, £3 or £4 separately, or maybe 5, and so on. This is some heat shield. It's like a fiberglass matting. I used to go under the bed. I never used it, but I bought it for that reason. We could use it for all sorts of things. Some spare parts. This one this is a part off the printer which I took off and done a better part, but at a push, if the printer failed and I couldn't print out a bracket to hold the hot end, this hot end goes there, then I can use this as a push. Because obviously you need a printer to print out parts, and if they break, then so that's what that's for. Spare ribbon cable, spare switch for the fan, for the mains on and off. Spare cover for the screen. This one was I printed out, and I decided to use a different setup. I decided to use the one on angle. This is going to go on the top. It's there in case I needed it. All the ANET parts go together. Some protective blanket to go around the hot end. Later then, show you what I mean. Some spare cogs. So these go on the motors, which drive the belts. There's 2 there, and there's also a drive wheel for the hot end, for the extruder. So one of those as well. Spare fan for the coolant, for the main fan, in case that goes, because if that goes you snow, because you have to mess about, so you need all these parts for them. Some PTFE, some cabling, the coupler there, and some of this, what we call it now, what we call the type of PTFE. I will leave the link in the description. This blue stuff is a copy, but the stuff I've got on the printer now, I'll leave the link for that one. I won't leave the link for this one. So I can't remember where I got this one. So somewhere from China. I forgot what it's called. Capricorn, I think. Is it Capricorn tubing? But it's really nice. So I'll leave the link for that. And some spare belts in there as well. And the company is from the UK, where this company is a copy, is from China. It looks okay. It's brittle. It's not very good. Spare fan, heatsink and a fan for the hot end. Don't need that. There's a spare switch. I always keep these in case one of the the X or the Y, Z switches go. Some spare mountains, a couple of them. Spare bearings for the extruder. Pack of 10 there, I think. Yeah, 10. Obviously you can do, this is just to show you what you might want to put in stock in case to keep this thing running. I'm not saying I need them, but you know yourself, if a part goes, by the time you search for it, order it, wait X amount of days and then you might not get it. It could be weeks and weeks and weeks, and that's frustrating. SD card reader, spare one of those. I mean, they're very cheap, all these things, so spare one of those. Have a look. Some spare bearings. Now these ones are Dryland bearings. There's loads. You can print your own out if you wanted to. I've switched from the steel line of bearings, roller bearings, which are very noisy. They work okay, but they're noisy and there's a bit of free play. Where the Dryland ones, they're a lot quieter, smoother. Yeah, so I upgraded to the Dryland ones. A little bag of couplings, hot ends, some new, some ones I've used I can clean out, and some hot end, what we call heat sinks, not heat sinks, hot end blocks, heat blocks. Yeah, some of them. Another bearing for the hot end, and then really there's a box full of little items, some heat brakes, like this one is a solid, all metal hot end. That one has actually got PTFE in. That one is a full metal. Them two are PTFE, so yeah, they're just the heat brakes. They're worth having. Nothing less than running out of one thing. And then in here there's just all bits and pieces of like a spare fan. It doesn't even fit. It used to fit on this type of thing, but because I've upgraded it from the old system, I've kept the fan. The fans are there in case I want to make something, but yeah, they're just all spare parts. Spare gear for the extruder, spare washers for the springs on the bed. It has the old button. So yeah, they don't really need them, but they're there in case, just in case. And then I've got, lastly, I think this is pretty much the last, got two full hot ends set up, ready to go. I spent a bit of time on setting these up, so what I've done, I made sure that where this locks in, I measured from there, the bottom, to make sure that I could get them as accurate as I can from the tip to there. So when I put this onto the, if I can find it, is it there? When I do put this onto the X on the carriage, it mounts okay. There you go. So when this mounts on to that bit of the X carriage like that, the distance is going to be the same when I put this one on or that one on. So literally tried my hardest to get that accurate. Just saves a lot of headaches later on. And you can see I've got the silicone boots on there ready to go, and obviously that's where the thermistor goes and the hot end, and the fans are all ready So I've got 2 spare fans, 2 full hot ends, 2 spare couplings. All I got to do is basically plug them in. So guys, I think that's pretty much it. I'll go back over the printer and we'll have a final discussion about what we think of this printer. Right guys, back at the printer. Okay, final words. What do I think about this printer then? Would I buy it again? Personally, I would. I love it. I think it's a great printer. It does take a lot of effort to start off with a bog standard ANET A8, but once you've got the time to do that, you're going to learn a hell of a lot more going through that process, building it up slowly, do's and don'ts, and printing all the parts out for yourself. So you could buy a printer out of the box, and yes, it'll work, but you won't learn as much, so you're losing that bit. It'll take a lot longer to learn if you're brand new to printing, and I'd never had a 3D print before, so I've learned a hell of a lot. You can see how much I've learned by the work I put into the printer. Would I swap this for another printer of say £300? No, no chance. No chance I would swap this, because I know the printer, I know how it works, I trust it, I've done that much work on it. I love it. I think it's a fantastic piece of kit, and with the upgrades and the add-ons, that's what makes it. So if ANET ever decide to make an ANET A8 with the auto bed level system on, and this adjustable bed so you can take it on and off, and a Bowden system and all these type of things, that's the way they should be going. And a steel frame, I think they've got a win one. And obviously the main board, a bit more memory on, instead of like the memory it's got's a bit too small. I think it's 256. You need 500 kilobytes. Kilobyte, not megabyte. A kilobyte, it's nothing. So if that was on there, then you could start to like flash it with more information and more items on. So overall, thumbs up. I think this is a fantastic printer. I've got no problems with it. Yes, in the 2 year, the problems I've had was, I mean, I use this thing 3 or 4 times a week. In the 2 year, the main problems I've had is the main board, where the terminals go, they're a bit weak, but if you can solder them direct to the board, that's sorted. This connector, that's a weak point again. Solder that directly to the main board, that's that problem solved. Other problems would be flexure in the frame, but that can be remedied by your mountains and the way you fix it, and these here, these stiffeners, that seems to fix that. And that's it really. Once that's done, it's actually a fairly decent printer. Get Marlin put on. Once Marlin's up there, you know that you've got the latest. It's nice and safe. It's going to detect. You can also go into the options in the firmware and actually make them options. You can reduce them. So say you wanted to detect a fault at a certain temperature, and you know that you're never going to go to that temperature, you can go in there and if you're not going to do ABS, you can knock the temperatures down a little bit, because you know that you're never going to get that high. So if your bed ever gets to a certain temperature, then it'll save the day type of thing. Yeah. So if you like this video, guys, thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed, I'd appreciate if you could do that for me. If you've got any suggestions or any comments, drop them below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Okay guys, thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one. Cheers.